Hi there. So, are you a freshman this year at Iowa State?
No, I'm a senior.
Okay, so do you go to the dining centers very often?
Every now and then, yeah.
Okay. And when you're at the dining centers, would you say that you grab a lot more food than you actually use?
Yeah, I mean, it's a buffet, so you normally grab more food and then you kind of just throw it away.
So, a lot of the food gets wasted, you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you think there's a better option or a better thing to do with this food than just throw it away?
Yeah, probably. There's probably other options what you could do with it.
And, the food that gets left over that's on the tables at the end of the day in the dining centers,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but all that gets thrown out too. Did you think that's kind of a waste?
Yeah, it's pretty wasteful to me, yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Food. We buy it, we eat it, and then we throw it away. As a nation, we waste billions of pounds of food each year. Meanwhile, 1 in 7 people in America are facing hunger. As Americans, we average 4.3 pounds of waste per day. Iowa State University is located in Ames, Iowa, and is a large university that houses many students. Iowa State is home to the Cyclones, Hilton Magic, and ISU Dining. On a typical trip to an ISU Dining Center, a student will waste approximately 0.22 pounds of food, averaging about 0.66 pounds of food lost per student a day. Iowa State has 36,001 students, many of whom attend the dining center daily. When you do the math, it starts to really add up. But does anyone ever wonder what happens when we decide to throw it away?
All right, I'm here with George Malukern and Matthew Johnston, both ISU Dining employees. George, would you say that ISU Dining wastes quite a bit of food from day to day?
Most definitely. A lot of food is wasted, I feel like.
And Matt, where does all that food go?
It usually gets thrown away or discarded, usually for the waste waste management in the back. So it doesn't really go anywhere as far as the dining center. That's about as far as its usefulness goes to.
George, would you say that it would be that this food is edible, that it could still be eaten, within a day or two?
Absolutely. I think a lot of it is very edible for a long period of time and just kind of thrown away immediately without even thought of it.
Okay, so have you guys ever heard of Food at First, the local food bank and meal service?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To the need?
Yeah.
Would you say this food could be transported and then used? Is it still viable food for these people to eat?
Oh yeah, I'd say so very much. And it would also help out a lot with their need for volunteers to help prep food. If the food is already prepped, that would be a big help for them as well, so they don't have such a high demand for volunteers. So that just really help out the cause.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Iowa State University has 4 major dining centers: Seasons, Conversations, Storms, and the most notable being Union Drive Community Center, also known as UDCC. It serves 3 meals a day, buffet style, which is similar to other ISU dining facilities. This particular dining center is located right across from Central Campus and near the Friley and Helzer dorms. UDCC is an excellent example of how ISU dining is wasting food. The buffet style creates an environment in which students will overserve themselves, causing even more food to be lost. Also, not to mention, this is a very easy way to add on the freshman 15, which eventually turns into the freshman 20. But what happens when we throw away the food we don't eat? Does it go in the garbage, compost, or is it given away to food banks? Well, the answer is all of the above. Iowa State University's Dining Center uses a conveyor belt, which takes the food into the back, which is then separated into either a garbage can or a compost bin. The food that can't decompose will be thrown away while the rest will be used for agricultural purposes. ISU Dining also gives packaged and processed foods that weren't used to an organization called Food at First. The excess food gets picked up and is then taken to food shelters. The food that comes from our dining centers goes to First Christian Church in downtown Ames. But where does the food on display that doesn't get grabbed by the customer of the dining centers go? As it turns out, the food that is on display gets sent to the dumpsters at the end of the day. All of that food, still edible and freshly made, gets thrown away. There has to be a better use for this food. Food at First has a food pantry, but they also serve hot meals to those in need in the Ames area. There is a real need for this food, and using it would really help Food at First feed the hungry people of Ames and Story County. We could not find a number on the amount of people in Ames that are in need of such meals, but after speaking to some of the staff at Food at First, I found out that attendance at their meal service is often about as much as they can handle, and even can be hard to have enough food sometimes. Since the packaged food already gets picked up and taken to Food at First food pantry, why not have their staff and volunteers also take this food and serve it at their meals? We propose that instead of throwing this food away, that ISU Dining instead allows Food at First employees and volunteers to take it with them when they come for the packaged food and use it for their meal service. Let's get into the specifics of our plan. Food at First has many containers, such as pans and Tupperware, that they can use to package ISU's Dining leftover food. They would transport it using their own vehicles, so ISU Dining would not have to have any extra expenses for its transport. In fact, ISU Dining would actually save money in waste management fees due to the decrease in food waste. Also, it would save a considerable amount of time disposing of the food as well as money spent on trash bags. Of course, from a legal point of view, ISU Dining might be a little bit worried about possible problems with the leftovers such as E. coli or something like that could leave them vulnerable from a legal standpoint. We have taken this into account and have discussed this with a few members of management at UDCC, and they believe that as long as the food meets ISU Dining standards when they originally cook it, and if Food at First has appropriate containers for the shipment of the food, then the food should be alright. One shift manager even told us that ISU Dining might be willing to lend some of its own equipment if the need arose. If ISU Dining still was afraid of a lawsuit, then foods such as meat and dairy that could pose a possible threat could be left out of the equation. Due to the immense amount of food that ISU Dining has left over at the end of the day, we believe that Food at First wouldn't or be able to use all of it, and so there needs to be another way to distribute this food to the hungry. We propose that this food could be distributed by student volunteers to local churches, the disabled, the elderly, or the hungry that simply do not have the means to go grocery shopping. But how can we go about making this happen? First, a student organization would be created on campus with its purpose being to serve the community. The main service project for the student-run organization is to deliver food into packaged meals to the elderly and hungry in Ames through a Meals on Wheels type of system. The students in this organization would be volunteers, and the food would be delivered via their cars starting out once a week. Gas and packaging for this food would be provided by the university student government for the club's use. A grant could also be appealed to the university to help cover these expenses. There is always a plethora of student volunteers on campus, and an organization such as this could really give back to the community and prevent more food waste. Imagine these plans in action. Not only does ISU Dining save money on waste management services and get to look good for donating its extra food, it also benefits the people in need here in Ames. People would have had to go without food, now can get a good meal to eat. Food at First will be able to feed the many people who rely on them for food. Also, the churches and elderly people around Ames can have meals delivered to their doorstep. Another thing is these plans give students a wonderful way to give back to their community. Money is saved, food is distributed to the needy, and less people go to bed at night with an empty stomach. All in all, it is a win-win situation for all involved. Although our plan only affects the Ames community, it has potential to shed light on the world food waste problem as a solution to the world hunger crisis. We hope this plan will come into effect and that it will propel along the anti-food waste movement.